places the same evening. That's unfair.
I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight to the meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees. This meeting was previously called to order, and we are now reconvening from executive session, and the first item we have every month is our prayer and pledge of allegiance. So if you will stand, Mrs. Jean Washington is going to lead us in that.
May we pray. Dear Father, we thank you for letting us see another year, 2016. We ask you to bless us this year as you had blessed us in the past. Lord, today we remember our schools and teachers. At a time when schools seems to include so much more than it used to, we find we need you most. With so many issues before us, we turn to you, Lord, and seek your wisdom. Lord, in some of our schools today, we are frustrated that we cannot honor you openly in prayer as we would like and as you deserve. But we are thankful that there are those who continue to bring the message of your Son, Jesus Christ, and they do it through example, and they do it every day. They are our teachers. Christ came to live with us as a teacher. He encourages us with his wisdom, his truth, and his endurance. He taught so that others may teach the world. And so, as it has been shown to us, may those who will influence and shape the minds of our youth, may they ever be mindful of the great teacher of all. Lord, we pray that you will grant our educators wisdom as they deal with the ever-changing society. Help them to remember that every effort is an opportunity to change a life, to inspire, to energize, to bring out that special gift you have blessed to each and every one of us. Lord, we pray for the strength and the endurance of our teachers. The road is a long one, never ending, and at times frustrating. We pray for their patience. We pray that when results are not apparent, may they be reminded that it is your timetable that counts, Lord, and they should not be encouraged. And Lord, we pray a special prayer that our teachers may know the rewards of gratitude and that they may enjoy the sense of achievement in the process. Lord, we pray for our schools. We pray for our administrators. We pray now for this school board. And Lord, just remember, we pray for our teachers. All these blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
May we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. We have got a couple of items to consider from executive session. Let's see. I guess yeah. All right. Item C is the approval of the board superintendent goals and superintendent's evaluation. Mr. Hardy, do we want to approve that contract now, the extension?
I would feel best if you approve, had a discussion
Okay, all right, very well. All right, so for right now, we will do the approval of board superintendent goals and superintendent evaluation. If I can get a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the board superintendent goals and evaluation process.
Thank you, Reverend Mason. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries 7-0. All right, then we've got one set of minutes to approve from December 14th.
I move that we approve the minutes from December 14th.
Thank you very much. Second?
I second.
All right. Any changes, corrections, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Move right into special recognitions. If everyone will please come on down to the front.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, we'd like to begin our recognitions by honoring Robert E. Lee High School students Nathan Bossinger and Ina Galeon for their achievements in band and choir. Nathan has made the Texas All-State Band for the second year in a row, and Ina has advanced to the Women's All-State Choir. All-State is the highest honor a Texas music student can receive. Over 1,800 students are selected through a process that begins with over 64,000 students from around the state. These All-State students participate in 3 days of rehearsals directed by nationally recognized conductors during the annual state TMEA Clinic Convention. Nathan and Ina, please come forward at this time so we can recognize you. Next, Tyler ISD would like to recognize the RISE Academy, and specifically one student who has completed graduation requirements for the 2015-16 school year. The Academy is a non-traditional pathway of choice for education and currently has approximately 150 students enrolled. These students have demonstrated perseverance and dedication by achieving their own personal educational goals while overcoming many challenges and obstacles along the way. Tonight, we want to thank you, the Board of Trustees, for your continued commitment to this program. We have one student here with us tonight, and that's Ms. Rachel Williams, and I'd like to ask her to come forward so we can honor her at this time. To ask the staff, we have some of the staff members just from RISE Academy to please stand. We want to honor you as well tonight for the great work you're doing at that program. Heroes for Education is the theme for the school year. Each month we will recognize a teacher, a staff member, organization, or community group for embodying Tyler ISD's mission and objectives, going above and beyond, and acting as an ambassador for Tyler ISD on and off campuses. Well, as you know, this month is School Board Recognition Month, and so this time we want to recognize you for being our heroes for education, and we're very happy to do so. So tonight we have some special guests with us, so ladies, I'd like to ask you to come forward, and I will let you introduce yourselves, and we're going to start with Miss Ashley Campbell, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the video we're about to see.
Good evening. On behalf of John Tyler High School and all Tyler ISD students, we thank you for your continued dedication to making our future your priority. Each of you exemplify the qualities of true heroes in that you tirelessly put the well-being and futures of others before yourselves. The students of Tyler ISD are so very grateful to you all. Please take a moment to view the special video behind you that shows how much Tyler ISD appreciates all you do for us.
Tyler benefits every day from the tireless work and countless hours dedicated by the school board of Tyler ISD. January is School Board Recognition Month, and Tyler ISD wants to thank our local leaders for devoting time to support public education and serve our schools. They're our superheroes of schools.
Because of our school board members, we empower and inspire independent thinkers.
Thank you, School Board, for supporting award-winning music in our schools.
Because of you, we can implement exemplary athletic programs.
Thank you, School Board. You make our future bright.
Thank you for believing in us.
Thank you, School Board, for all the opportunities you provide.
Thank you for striving to make our community a better place.
Thank you, School Board. Because of you, we use cutting-edge technology in the classroom.
Because of our school board, students learn in a safe, secure, and positive learning environment. Thank you!
I'm Claire Stratton. On behalf of the Robert E. Lee cheerleaders, we're honored to speak to you today and personally give our appreciation for your service on the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees. Through your leadership, Tyler ISD students and staff continue to achieve great things in the classroom and in our society. We are proud to have you as our leadership and the driving force behind Tyler ISD.
Hello, I'm Ava DeCall, and it is now our pleasure to present each of you with a special gift of appreciation. Andy Bergfield represents District 7. He is the current board president and is a fifth-generation Tylerite. Mr. Bergfield was re-elected to the board in 2012. Dr. Patricia Nation represents District 4. She is the current board vice president and has more than 27 years of experience in education. Mr. Wade Washman represents District 1. He is a product of Tyler ISD and has served on the board since 2013. Reverend Orinthia Mason represents District 2. She has served on the board since 2005, including president and vice president roles. Jean Washington represents District 3. She has served on the board since 2013 and has had more than 35 years of experience in education. Aaron Martinez represents District 5. Mr. Martinez was elected to the board in 2015. Reverend Fritz Hager Jr. represents District 6. Reverend Hager also joined the board in 2015. Thank you so much again for your service to the students, staff, and community. We appreciate you.
And that concludes our recognitions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to everybody who took part in preparing everything tonight, from the food earlier to you guys coming to the school board meeting. Makes us smile to see TISD in action out there, so we thank all of you. Next we have approval of the annual audit, and we will start out with a presentation of the audit.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
My name is Bob Roseman. I'm a partner with Prothero Wilhelmy & Company, and I have with me Ramsey Starks, who is the gentleman who leads our audit of Tyler Independent School District. And first off, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to be engaged to perform your audit services again. It is indeed a privilege, and one that I consider an honor, especially having raised my children here in TISD, paid my taxes to for that, and now I see my grandchildren beginning their education in TISD, and so it's indeed a privilege to participate in this manner, but more importantly to participate in the education of our children and see that happen. Equally so, I'm proud to tell you that we have unmodified opinions on our audit. There were no findings. Ramsey will report to you regarding our review of the government programs and adherence on that. But before he does that, I do just want to say that the district remains in great financial condition, and we're pleased to hear that. We've had great cooperation with all of the staff, Tasha Bjork and Ruth York, and all of the folks on the staff here in the administration building, and as well as we met with the audit committee and presented in greater detail and fielded questions from them on the audit and further matters. So that has occurred at this point. As far as highlights from the changes from one year to the next, the things that I would point out as the major highlights are probably no news to you, but you know, it's a very significant amount of the money that was on hand at the end of the 2014 school district year has been spent on facilities, and I know you're enjoying those facilities now. And so that was certainly a significant change year over year. And in addition to that, had some major refunding of bonds, and with that, I think you see fiscal responsibility for future interest savings going forward, and we reviewed that, and everything looks good. And then in addition, probably financially has the greatest impact on the net position on the district is that all districts in the state of Texas, or actually nationally, due to the government audit standards, we are now required to reflect the pension liability associated with the teacher retirement system, that each district has to record their respective share of that liability. And so within this audit report year, you see that implementation in place. And so it is a reflection of that liability that has existed throughout the years, but it is now recorded on each district throughout the state. The good thing is that Tyler Independent School District was able to absorb that without it being any major impact on the district from a financial standpoint. And that's not easy to do. I mean, it's quite a large sum of money to record on the financial statements, and many districts do not have the luxury of absorbing that and still being in a great positive net position, and TISD is, and so I'm proud to say that. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Ramsey and let him talk on the review of the federal programs, and then after that, we'll certainly field any questions you may have.
Thanks, Bob. Also, in addition to our independent auditor's report, we've also issued 2 additional reports. One is our independent auditor's report on an internal control over compliance and compliance with respect to the government auditing standards. In this report, if we had any findings that were material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we'd be required to report those findings in this report. And we are pleased to report that we do not have any such findings. The other report that we have is the independent auditor's report on internal control compliance with respect to the Office of Management Budget, Circular A-133. This particular report relates to our federal programs. Based on the criteria that is established by the Office of Management Budget, we have reviewed the different federal expenditures, and based on the criteria, had selected the following programs. We audited IDEA B, which is special education, Title II Part A, and also Head Start. Based on our audit, we did not have any findings with respect to the federal awards. Again, as Bob mentioned, it is truly an honor and a privilege to be associated with the district. And at this time, if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to address those.
Okay, board members. Mr. Washburn, got any questions, comments to start us out?
Well, just really comments, because being on the audit committee chair, I've kind of heard it all, but and y'all have done a fantastic job over the last few years. How long have y'all been auditors, external auditors for the district now?
It's either 9 or 10 years. I think
And one key point I would like to make that I think is really critical is not only are these guys local, you know, like Mr. Roseman was saying, that sent kids through here, but secondly, they've really gotten to develop a good chemistry with the staff, and I'm impressed or relieved that throughout the audit you can call with really significant questions. If some numbers, if there's a red flag or yellow flag that comes up, you can call. You guys can work it out, just like you talked about before the end of the year last year, and everybody's on the same page and willing to work with each other. And I think through the audit process, that's a big deal. You know, Jan will tell you, Coker, the more people are willing to work with you throughout the audit process, the easier it is and the more transparent it is. So nothing but good things to say about Tasha and Ruth and the whole gang, and just happy to have another good report, really. I commend you guys for doing a good job. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Reverend Mason.
I hope the citizens of Tyler are proud to hear this report and how our school administration, especially the financial department, are taking care of the money that you entrust to our keeping as we take care of our students, faculty, and staff, and then to see the great, as Wade said, the great working relationship between our auditor and Tasha and her staff. And again, as always, we've been working together for a while now, and we thank you for all that you continue to do. And you did have a few suggestions, very minor, and we appreciate that very much, but I'm very proud of this great report that you're making.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, we need a motion to approve the audit.
I move to approve the audit.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. That audit has been approved, and we will move on to a great part of our program, public participation. Looks like we have 2 people signed up to speak tonight. I'll just go in the order they are here. Mr. Bob Brewer is here to speak about, well, we'll see. Thank you, Bob. He's such a regular, he doesn't put it down anymore.
It's kind of a continuation of 3 months past. So anyway, I have some bad news, and then I have some good news. The bad news is I wasn't Buck Files' best speech student at Lee in 1966. A lot of y'all might not know that. But it did take me 6 years to graduate from Lee, so that's kind of, you're shaking your head. No, we were the Generals, and then we were the other, not the Red Raiders, but the team that preceded that, the Rebels. So anyway, the other good news is we've got a fantastic dining place in downtown Tyler. I'm not going to advertise it, but it's utterly world class. I've never been in a better building, and I've appraised a lot of buildings, and that one's just unbelievable. Okay, the other good news is some of our top TISD students just received their textbooks yesterday. From the start of the semester till yesterday, they did not have a textbook, and these are some of your top students in TISD. The other good news is I ran into a Brandon Corporation employee last week, and he reported to me that the Fun Forest pool, once again the swimming pool in North Tyler, not too far from the renovated restaurant space, he said 20 years ago that pool was brought up to world-class Olympic standards. It's, I don't know, the feedback I've gotten prior to that was that the pool was irretrievable. And I just can't understand how something can go from world-class Olympic standards to unrepairable in 20 years. So anyway, I'd still like to see that the school district do something with this. On Monday, I got to meet another one of your top students at the Martin Luther King Day at the Immaculate Conception Church. The child is, or the young man is utterly, apparently, really amazing. He wants to compete in his chosen passion, but cannot do so because his teacher can't escort him on weekends. And because the teacher cannot escort him on weekends, he has to pay extra judging fees, which amount to at least 4 days of the work that he does every week. So, my question is, if we didn't spend the $2 million in emergency funds to build a pool, far away from North Tyler, would we have enough funds to pay for the textbooks the kids don't have, your top kids don't have, and for the escort fees and the judging fees that some of your top speech people crave to follow in those competitions?
All right, thank you. Next, we have Mrs. Ethel J. Hawkins, and she is going to talk about vision consultants and empower you to fulfill the vision God put in your heart. She's with the Faith Action Network. Ms. Hawkins.
Good evening and Happy New Year. We praise God for the awesome prayer by Sister Jean Washington tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak during public comment. And congratulations to the Tyler ISD School Board and Superintendent of Schools for their leadership and the vision for Tyler ISD Faith Action Network fan. This is a new year and a new season for the educational success of all students and their parents. Tyler ISD Faith Action Network is the result of God touching someone's heart in Tyler ISD administration team to recognize that our country was founded on Christian principles, and for all students to be successful, they need a spiritual foundation. Before God created the world and before God formed us in our mother's womb, He had a game plan for us as He created us in His image and in His likeness. A recent article in the Tyler Morning Telegraph was entitled, 9 Tyler ISD schools listed as needs improvement plan in place. God's answer, Tyler ISD Faith Action Network. And let me read the letter that went out to the pastors in the faith-based community. February the 9th, 2015. Dear pastor or faith-based representative, please join us for our next Tyler ISD Faith Action Network fan meeting, Thursday, March 5th, 2015, 10 a.m. in Room D, Tyler ISD Administration Building, 1319 Earl Campbell Parkway. The first fan meeting held in October was a great success with the following congregations represented: Dayspring United Methodist Church, Trinity Lutheran Church, Child Evangelism Fellowship Good News Club, Trinity Baptist Church, which is now Lone Star Church, First Church, First Christian Church, Shiloh Road Church of Christ, Congregation Bethel, and East Texas Islamic Society. During the March 5th meeting, we will discuss the topics below: back to school campus beautification and back to school drive. About FAN, the Faith Action Network is comprised of pastors and representatives of local faith-based organizations who plan to meet once per semester. Meeting discussions will help keep you informed of student and campus needs across the district. We will also brainstorm ways we can work together to help meet these needs. We hope you will join us March the 5th, signed by Ms. Dawn Purnell, Executive Director of Communications. Let me share 2 scriptures that fall in line with Tyler ISD Faith Action Network. Proverbs 22:6, the Amplified Joyce Meyer says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and in keeping with his individual gift or bent, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Putting the word to work, a Bible lesson from Joyce Meyer. She said Proverbs 26 teaches that children will not depart from good training. If you are a parent, how can you train your children in godly ways? Ask God to help you, he will. I want to applaud the district for the auto mechanic program that was in the newspaper, and it's a testament of those students were so excited about using their gifts and passions to repair automobiles. The second scripture is James 2:14-18. It says, "Faith without action is dead." What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but don't show it by your action? Can that kind of faith save anyone? How can you show your faith if you do not have any action? I will show you my faith by my action. We thank you again, Tyler ISD administration, and let us reconnect ourselves in 2016 to work together for educational success of all students, parents, and family members. Let me share with you some awesome divine statistics in Tyler ISD. Many of the schools in Tyler ISD have principals, teachers, administrators, and other staff who are pastors, pastors' wives, and people who hold faith-based positions in their churches. God is smiling on us right now because he put the vision in someone's heart for Tyler ISD Faith Action Network. And as we work together, Tyler ISD board members, pastors, churches, community, parents, teachers, and students, we will be a testimony of Ephesians 3:20, the Amplified Joyce Meyer. Now to him who by a consequence of the action of his power that is at work within us is able to carry out his purpose and keep abundantly far above all that we can dare ask, think, beyond our wildest desires, prayers, thoughts, hopes, and dreams. To God be the glory, and God bless you all. Look out, world. Here comes Tyler ISD Faith Action Network fan for the educational success of our students and their parents. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, now we move on to our business, legal, finance, consent agenda. Dr. Crawford, do you want to pull any of these items?
Absolutely. How about item E? Consider approval of the fencing at Hog Middle School. We'll talk about that.
All right.
That's the one I'd like to pull out of that.
All right.
Section.
I've got one question on C. On Mr. Loper, are those out of our preventative maintenance fund? Is that where that money comes from?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, and that's just scheduled, and it's time for those lots to be addressed.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, board members, anybody else? Anything else? All right, I'll need a motion to approve A, B, C, and D.
I move that we approve items A, B, C, and D of item 12.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Reverend Mason, beat you to it. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Item E.
Item E is the fencing at Hog Middle School. As this board was aware, when the bond 2013 allowed us to increase our capacity at our brick and mortar buildings to not rely upon portable temporary space anymore. Over time, the district had accumulated, because it had grown, had accumulated over approximately 250 portable temporary buildings district-wide. I'm happy to report to you today that we're down to about 50, approximately 50 buildings district-wide located at Lee, John Tyler, Dogan, and St. Louis. Those are the 4 campuses that we still have portables on. So much thanks to the community for supporting us to go forward on the building programs, correcting a lot of issues with our school facilities that had existed here in Tyler ISD for generations. In saying that, one of the commitments we made towards Hog Middle School, built in approximately 1930, an older building, a beautiful building, was to make sure that not only were those portables removed, but that any of the dollars that we did retain from some of the sale of these portables actually put that back in towards some of the beautification of that campus. In your packet is a recommendation to consider for action the opportunity to install a faux wrought iron fencing along Broadway with the brick pillars, along with the refurbishment of the other perimeter fencing around the field and track area. That's the proposed track, the about to be installed track that runs across Lake Street, and then behind the school. What street is that? The one right behind it. Fannin. That's right, Fannin. So Fannin and Lake are to receive the black vinyl gauged fencing along, and then on the front of the Broadway facing Broadway is actually the faux wrought iron with the pillars, similar to what Lee and John Tyler have right now on the loop.
Very good. Let me get a motion in a second. We'll get that, and then we'll have some discussion.
I move that we approve the professional design, I move that we approve the ornamental fencing at Hog Middle School.
All right.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Washington. All right. Any discussion on this item? All right. Wade, it's down the street from you. So.
It is down the street from me. I'm excited about it. We always talk about our front porch programs. Hog's right there on Broadway. Really excited to see us do some improvements there. I think the fence goes a long way to beautifying it. So visitors to town, on the way through the Azalea Trail and all that in the springtime, get to see a school that is starting to kind of match the beauty of that Azalea district. And I know it's more cost, and I know we decided to do brick, but I wish we could have had some iron ore rock in there. But we looked into it. It's more money, but we're conservatives and we're responsible, and so the brick will match the building, right?
As close as we can match brick from 1930, yes, sir.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe we can tear some of that school down and just use the. No, I'm kidding.
No, that's not going to happen. Hog's a fine school, and certainly, the safety and security of our students and our community is priority, and certainly not having a fence around that football field, the soccer field track, you'd have a lot of opportunities for some safety issues onto Broadway and Lake Street. So I appreciate the board considering this, as we can contain what we have there and protect our students and our community members from having a soccer ball run out there in Broadway and having an accident.
It'll be a great thing for the kids at Hog, and it'll be a great thing for the community that lives around there. So I am grateful and excited that we're getting to do it, and that's all I got to say.
And by doing this, it makes a complete perimeter fence.
Actually, about 90%. Back there on Fannin, where the iron ore wall is that has the stairs there, that's for future consideration, I think. But as far as containing the activities that go there, this is adequate per the administration's recommendation.
Let me just say that I feel like appreciate Dr. Crawford bringing this to our attention. We, it seems like maybe have had over certain times lowered our expectations of what our campuses should look like, our existing campuses. The new ones are beautiful, they're great, but we also need to take care of the existing campuses we have. And you don't want to be the part of the neighborhood that people look at and say that's the low point in the neighborhood. And so with Hog being such a beautiful school and beautiful neighborhood, the older chain link fence and the old backstop that was there, and we just kind of drive by it every day and think that's just the way it has to be, but it doesn't. And I appreciate you bringing this to us, and I look forward to seeing the improvements made over there. Okay. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that carries. All right, now the curriculum instruction consent agenda. What do you want to pull out of that?
Yes, sir. I would appreciate if the board would actually consider item A, the tuition-based pre-K program that we'd like to pilot. And at this time, I'd like Shauna Hiddle to actually come up to the table.
Any other items while she's making her way up here
That's
that we
it.
want to pull, board? Everybody good?
Can we
All right.
put D as well?
Sure. All right. Let me get a motion on items B and C, and then we will go from there.
I move that we approve items B and C as presented by staff.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then we've got action item A.
Okay, so what we would like to seek approval for is to implement a tuition-based pre-K program. That is something that many other districts already offer. This is for ineligible pre-K students. So currently in Tyler ISD, we offer pre-K half-day programs at 4 different campuses. We have got 4 different half-day monolingual classes as well as 4 bilingual classes that parents can take advantage of that qualify under federal guidelines for pre-K. What we are asking and looking into is to have a tuition-based pre-K program, and so the state does allow that as long as the tuition does not exceed the cost of the program, so which is the cost of the teacher. The benefits of that, of course, is a full-time certified early childhood teacher in our school system, and so of course the tuition would be comparable to what families would pay in a private setting.
I'd like to add to that. The pilot for this year, the location is, for right now, Andy Woods
Right.
Elementary School. There is a pre-K program that's there that we think that'd be beneficial, that we already have something in place there. From my understanding, Ms. Jones and that campus have said that they were willing to take this on. We're looking to pilot this within our employee, the faculty and staff, and give them first shot at it. Something almost as an added perk to be very competitive against their daycare needs, but it's instructionally based. You've got higher performing districts that are very successful with this program. Hershey's Bedford Schools, which is a district that I've continuously said over the last 16 months that Tyler should aspire to catch. They're one. Plano does this. A lot of the other districts do this as well. So we'd love to pilot it and see if it can work within just our faculty at first, and if there's any space left over, open it up to the actual public. And then obviously potentially implement these programs at other parts of the school district as well as we have success. Previous school district that I was superintendent in, we actually had tuition based that we meshed with our qualifying students, and we're able to operate those at a very high functioning level. We felt it benefited instructionally. At the same time, we were, we didn't incur any expenses operating this financially. It was a great incentive for our faculty and staff to take advantage of that program as opposed to a daycare that may not be as instructionally based. A lot of positive things to say about this, and I think Ms. Hiddle's done a great job in researching this and seeing if this is a good program for Tyler.
So did I hear you say, Dr. Crawford and Shauna, that we're looking at faculty and staff?
Correct.
Children of faculty and
Yes,
staff?
ma'am.
And limited to what number?
22 to 1 is the state ratio. There's a full-time teacher and a full-time teaching assistant.
And this is one and it was just one classroom?
Just one. Yeah, we
As a
want
pilot.
For now.
As a pilot for now, and it's we get some feedback provided to us, we could potentially expand even this year and take on another pilot.
Will you consider canvassing all faculty and staff to see what their interests will be, so you'll know how to plan in the future.
Yes.
Absolutely. This is the first step that we have to go in front of to get the board approval so that we can actually ask the state, the Commissioner of Education, to begin this program here. Just because we get board approval does not mean we have to do it. It just gives us the opportunity to go forth to the state. They give us approval, and then that's when we actually start trying to stock that program. If we don't get the interest, then we don't do the program.
Correct.
When are you planning on starting this program?
The 2016-17 school year.
Okay, all right.
So 4 years old.
Yes.
That's the age, or before September. What does a day look like in the pre-K school? What are the kids? Are they sitting there all day, or what? What is this, kindergarten? I mean, tell me about.
I highly doubt that 4-year-olds will be sitting for very long at any part of the day. No, they will. And there is a state guidelines. There's actually state pre-K guidelines and standards that are offered that they would follow those, just much like a pre-kindergarten. Like kindergarten has state standards, and so does pre-K. So they would be following that curriculum and those standards.
What's our expectation of the kids once they're done with the program? What will be our goal? Is it just to get them ready for kind of used to school or whatever?
Absolutely. It's just to give our 4-year-old children an opportunity to be in a quality pre-K setting, to expose them to school readiness skills and school readiness both socially, behaviorally, emotionally, and academically.
So are they going to be able to, we're going to practice reading, what, alphabet, like what?
As developmentally appropriate for 4-year-olds, of course. We would be exposing them to the guidelines and the standards that the state sets forth, appropriate to 4-year-old children.
Right.
Letter, number recognition.
Yes, colors, shapes.
Colors, shapes. Yeah. Anything that's in the state TEKS for pre-K is what we are going to
It's a school readiness program.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, suppose a child is above that level. We will challenge them, perhaps even expose them to that kindergarten classroom that's on that campus.
We certainly
just won't
could.
do readiness. If a child accelerates, we will accelerate with them. Is that correct?
Of course. Of course.
We have a pre-K program at Woods.
We do. We already have, they're both half-time programs, so because those are the eligible student programs. So we already have 2 classes there. And that's one of the reasons we would like to look at Andy Woods, so that way there's some teacher collaboration and student collaboration as well, so they can build on each other there.
But it'll be separate from them, separate classrooms.
Right, because of the full day.
One of the issues that we have in Tyler is we're half-day programs. These full-day pre-K programs that I've mentioned are full-day. These half-day are... it does put a strain on the parents to find something else for the remainder of the day. This is our entry into the full-day pre-K world, perhaps for all of even our qualifiers. Certainly the funding has to be there to match, and that's what a lot of school districts have done when they've done this tuition-based pre-K is you've got the tuition kids and you've got the qualifiers, and they're intermingled in the same class, and you're able to basically not incur any of those expenses. If you were to take your half-day programs right now, you would have to cover the rest of it because the state only covers half of a pre-K program. So this is our foray into implementing this. Again, very highly successful districts have done this, getting kids an early start to exposure to the school. I don't want to bite off any more than we can chew. I'd love to implement a tuition-based pre-K program at every one of our campuses, but I think that would be not very smart on our behalf to see what we can do. Work out the kinks with this first one, maybe 2, if there's a lot of interest there. But certainly we'd love to have an opportunity to do so.
Dr. Crawford, if I understand the recommendation here, it's for the authority to establish a program. As that program is piloted and developed, is there going to be, there's costs associated with that. That's part of just the normal budgeting process for the next school year that you would go through?
Sure.
At that point?
Yeah, we've got some projections after Ms. Hiddle had gone and done some research to where we're going to, budget-wise, it'll be budget neutral. And at the same time, in some areas, again, like the state says, you can't make money off of it. However, you can, any profits that you do capture can be rolled back into the program. That's what we did in West. That's what they did in Hercules Bedford as well. And that's where you saw some of these innovative programs come up to where, starting to teach orchestra as early as pre-K, some language immersion classes that are offered that early that could be considered as well. So again, I think that this is something that once we get the finite numbers or get close to those finite numbers for the board to consider, we will present that to you guys and maybe even have another action item for y'all to say, yes, go forth. But this is the first step to go in front of the commissioner to get permission from the state, because they have to plan from their end about what it's going to look like financially if you're starting a new pre-K program outside of just the regular qualifying program, especially if it's full day.
And do we have an idea for what the tuition would be? I mean, I understand the methodology behind it, but is that something you've calculated at this point?
Yes, sir. We are looking at it would be approximately about $4,000 a year or $400 a month, which is very competitive in our community. It's actually a very good competitive price. We've researched the private.
Excuse me. I noticed that parents from other districts can also bring their child to our district to go to the pre-K. Will they be paying the same tuition as the ones that's in our district, or will that be a different tuition?
Well, right now we're targeting the students that live within the Tyler ISD boundaries for the pre-K, for the tuition-based pre-K program, especially unless it's an employee that lives outside of our district, and then the tuition then would remain the same.
What's the estimated impact on the additional responsibility for a principal, and then any impact on central office staffing levels as a result of the expansion of this program?
We'll cover it in central office with
me.
Okay.
So she's already employed. So we'll make sure we take care of ourselves in central office. As far as any additional impact at the campus level, it'd be like
adding a section
of a course to a grade level. Instead of having 3 in second grade, you have a population increase, and you have 4 in second grade. So again, we put this in front of Woods, and they feel like that they can take care of this with the addition of a teacher and an aide. No administrative staff or other clerical staff needed.
So I'm a big fan of high quality pre-K. I think it's essential to a good start, and for the kids who start off behind, we struggle to get them back on track. So I think this is great. As we look forward to the potential to expand this program, there are a handful of schools that seemingly might not have the capacity, even just the classroom space, to implement. Can you comment on the how widespread that might be in the future in terms of an obstacle, and then anything that can be done to address that?
Yeah, we have a few of our elementary schools that do not have space to implement this, and we did look at some in the southern sector, Jack and Owens. Owens' location right now, if we're just starting out with our faculty, would not be probably feasible. So Woods became a target because it's more centrally located. Jack, depending on what their needs are and what the Owens and Rice sector would look like, we'd have to consider those 3. But that's where we're at right now as far as where we have some space and where we can centrally locate this, so that both all directions from the district, north, south, east, and west, could have a fairly easy time getting there. Again, we'll give it a good shot and see what our performance looks like with our data. We'll assess those students and see what their growth is, and see if we want to replicate this in other parts of the district as we move forward. The last legislature allotted approximately $195 million to high quality pre-K programs. It was one of Governor Abbott's huge initiatives. So getting our foot in the door for this and for future opportunities there, for innovative early education opportunities for all students, not just the qualifiers but the non-qualifiers too, is something I think is available for us, and the right step towards becoming a higher performing district like some of those that we're chasing right now.
Or in the pilot, are we going to have this inaugural class try to match kind of the makeup of the district as far as students go, so we can actually try to get a decent sample of, because we'll be, if we're measuring data, and most of these will be staff or administration kids, or they all will be, are we going to try to have a fairly good mix that matches kind of our district? Or I guess that's something to think about doing if you really want to measure data, try to get a good cross-section of like what the district looks like now, maybe.
You mean ethnic composition?
Everything. I mean, everything,
We haven't made it that far yet.
Yeah.
But it's a good suggestion.
Something to think about.
Also, another way to look at that is, a blind draw as well. I mean, I think that, certainly we will certainly speak with some of our peers about how they go through the selection process, and then that, again, sheer numbers is the first thing that I think we're going to have to look at and see if there is interest there. I've got to think that out of 2,500 employees, that we've got staff with 4-year-olds that have maybe might even be here tonight, that said, okay, $600, that might be $250 less per month what I'm paying to go to X, Y, or Z pre-K, like you have and I have, might be interesting for them, and at the same time getting exposed to the instruction as opposed to just traditional early educational opportunities. Might be something that's appealing. So again, I think the recommendation is just to open it up, and then certainly we will be very cognizant of what you've requested. There's no doubt about it. We always are. I mean, it's if we start getting into conversations about our staff makeup and our demographics of our staff, we are well above status quo in making sure that we are well staffed. And I think we can do the same thing with students as well. So let's open it up, see what the interest is, and then we'll actually formalize what the selection process will be.
Good deal.
Dr. Crawford, just so I'm clear, that it's a program open not just to the staff at Woods, but to the staff of the entire district, subject to their availability to drop their kids off there at Woods.
That's right.
Okay.
Transportation will not be provided. Another thing about Woods that we're excited about there, that usually when you match these, like I described our half-day program, to where parents have to find other opportunities for after-school care. Right there at Woods, we already have a strong YMCA, I think, runs that program, after-school program, that for an additional fee, you could actually, be there till I think 6 o'clock in the evening, with after-school programs that are academically enriched and still come in underneath that cap that our average is here in Tyler, and still be an affordable opportunity there. So it is district-wide, yes, sir, to answer your question in a very long, roundabout way.
Okay. Need a motion on the administrative recommendation to approve tuition-based pre-kindergarten.
I joyfully move that we approve establishing a tuition-based pre-kindergarten program for Tyler ISD faculty and staff.
I joyfully second your motion.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Joyfully.
Yes. That motion passes 7-0. All right, item D.
Item D is Edmentum online learning programs for educators. I'd like to ask Dr. Christy Hansen, Chief Administrative Officer for Area 1, who has curriculum instruction in her area, to sit at the table, and Mr. Ron Jones, Chief Administrative Officer for Area 3, who has the high schools in his sphere of responsibility, to take the table so they can answer your questions in depth. But what we have in front of the board here is the opportunity to provide SAT and ACT preparation, end of course STAR exams, TSI prep, and advanced place courses and support to every one of our high school students. It is something that we have been lacking, that we have been pretty much putting upon the parents to go and seek SAT and ACT preparations with a private vendor outside. With the budget that we have a resource here that can be provided to every high school student. They will not be locked in at just the school to be able to use this. They can use that at home. They can use that in the airport. They can use that on their break at work. So I'm going to turn it over to the board for questions, and at the same time have our two administrators here to answer those questions as well, or take your action.
All right.
Looking at the materials that have been submitted here, we seem to be trailing the state average in many of these indicators in terms of advanced course enrollment, IP and AP participation, pretty much across the board. And so I know this is a priority, Dr. Crawford, you established soon after you arrived, was to, in addition to improving student performance across the board, that advanced academic performance was an area of special concern. So I'm glad to see this brought to the board. This is a significant investment for us. It's a large amount of money spread over a 31-month period. You answered one of my questions in the introduction, which was access. So this is not something that's limited to access during the school day. This will be accessible to all students through the TISD website with their existing password, and able to, on the advanced placement. So is this going to include test prep for the end of course AP exam as well?
Yes, it includes that suite as well. We'll take, right now we have a diffusion of effort as we are seeking to prepare our students for success in ACT, SAT, end of course exam, and this will bring everything under one umbrella.
So one of the areas we trail is in the area of enrollment and participation. This seems to be geared towards helping kids who are already engaged in these courses, improving their performance. Can you talk through any strategies that are in place or that you're even considering to improve participation rates? Assuming that once the kids get in, they receive high quality instruction, they get access to this resource, they're going to be more successful. What are we doing to get kids engaged in these programs in the first place?
Go ahead. We were playing games here. Who's going to take it? I'll take the question. Right now, students coming into high school from middle school, they have new offerings as freshmen entering high school this upcoming school year, and we're right now pushing students into those programs, and we'll make sure that they have the resources necessary to ensure their success throughout and to keep them in the program. This will be a large part of that. They will have opportunity for tutorials through this program where they do not have to be there at the school. They can, like Dr. Crawford said, log in from home, library, wherever they need to in order to achieve success. Teachers can monitor their progress, and it's self-paced, so students can monitor their own progress and hold themselves accountable for their learning. So those things will help to increase and sustain the enrollment in those programs.
Separate and apart from this particular item is, remember, we also are upping our pre-AP program in middle school with the Springboard program that you agreed to last year. So our middle school, part of our enrollment issues at the high school have to do with the lack of success that our freshmen are having their first semester of a pre-AP course. And so if they have a more rigorous curriculum at the pre-AP GT level at the middle schools, they will be more successful in the high school. They'll stick with that pre-AP AP class longer.
Will pre-AP students have access to this particular program, or is this geared for people in the full AP program?
This is a high school program. Every student, 9 through 12, will have a license. And so it will be geared for their content courses, and it will be geared towards their ACT, SAT, advanced academics. So this particular suite, the board has been very generous in giving us opportunities for remediation for students. And as you know, we've done that in recent months. This particular suite really is geared towards that college readiness, that student that we really haven't necessarily provided all the resources for to help them be successful on that post-secondary. And one of the things that we'll substitute for is right now we're paying for a different suite for TSI for that college entrance exam, dual credit. We're using something different. We'll be able to replace that with this suite also.
You mentioned students grades 9 through 12, 8th graders taking pre-AP algebra. Would they have access to it?
Right now it's a site license for Robert E. Lee, John Tyler, RISE, Early College. So as of right now, it is a site license for the high schools, 9 through 12.
Mr. Hager, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah,
you've got an expert sitting at that table, Mr. Jones, that, and he spoke to this earlier. He didn't go into depth on this, but beginning next year, I believe that we are actually offering AP courses and credit to incoming freshmen.
Right.
We've been delaying this until their junior year, along with any IB opportunities. Well, Mr. Jones had a lot of success as a high school principal himself, sending tons of kids to Plan B at University of Texas, or maybe even Harvard, because he was able to provide a lot of opportunities to freshman students to taking AP Biology and AP World Geography as 14-year-olds and starting to accumulate those college credits while they're knocking off some of those high school credits as well. There's a niche for that. We've been missing that in Tyler. And really it did surprise me when I got here that we did not have that opportunity in place to expose students to the college, those really advanced students to obtaining those college credits, even their ninth grade year. So that's what you asked about, when are they going to be able to access this? When's it going to become relevant? It becomes relevant when they set foot on campus. As far as middle school goes, what we'd like to get to eventually is something that Mr. Jones had done while he was high school principal, and actually have geometry being taught to 7th and 8th graders, those are really advanced students. It's time to start competing. It's time to start in Tyler ISD. It's time to start taking care of every child. And just because we've got some struggling areas doesn't mean that we're going to neglect even those high-performing advanced students. Exactly. So this is the tool that the administration is recommending for us to. It's not going to fix it. We certainly have instruction that we have to improve as well. But this is going to give our students an opportunity that we're going to take care of, as opposed to them having to go out and seek ABC College Prep Inc. that's located on Donnybrook somewhere or something. So we're going to take care of what we're supposed to be taking care of and not leave it up to a private vendor.
One last question. So this is a tool that's used exclusively outside the classroom. I noticed there was significant professional development that accompanies this, so it's for use in the classroom as well.
Yes, okay. And teachers will be provided that opportunity for professional development.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I am so glad to see this being offered, because I have had children, after they finished high school, they had to go out, like Dr. Crawford was saying, and find an institution or find extra help so they could study for the SAT, ACT. And so I am so glad that this is going to be offered in our schools. But now let me ask you a question. After they graduate, a student graduates, will they still have to pay for taking the ACT, SAT test that they've been taking or doing before they could enter college?
No, they'll take care of the ACT, SAT business while they are still in high school, and that will launch them into the college or university of their choice. So they will have that done prior to graduation. So they won't, there are fee waivers for those students who need them in order to take the SAT, ACT, so they won't have that to worry about.
Yes, I understand you said they will be monitored
Mm-hmm.
during this process
Yes.
that they're going through. So when if they take the test in school,
Mhm.
you know, before they graduate, and they don't do well, they don't make a high score like some of the college requires, can they go back and study again until they can pass those tests?
Absolutely. There's no limit on the number of times that they can take the ACT, SAT. They just have to sign up, study, go back at it. So, and we'll take the highest score.
List some other school districts that might be using this right now.
Well, we've got Dallas ISD, we've got Plano, we've got Hurst Julius Bedford. I don't remember. We have
Mansfield using this right now?
We have our
Edmentum reps are here.
They would have to tell us.
I know Jason's back there somewhere.
Jason, Richardson ISD, Carrollton Farmers Branch, and a lot in the Dallas Fort Worth.
Sure.
There we go. Very successful.
I was trying to get at was there's a personal testimony on that table about
He doesn't
using
want to
this
say
tool.
it.
And
He doesn't want to say it.
Well, yeah, we use this at Hillcrest High School, and you know, I know that you guys have been told we had 7 distinctions this last school year, and I give credit to the Edmentum suite in helping us to achieve that, and that's not an easy thing to do, but it's certainly doable with the right resources, and I believe that this is certainly a resource that will help us get there.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jones, for bringing that
Mister.
to Tyler.
You're welcome.
You know, I've taken over the years the SAT, the ACT, the LSAT, the state bar exam, real estate license exam, insurance license exam, and I feel sorry for people who try to take any of these without the prep course. It's not even fair, you know, and so if we can provide this to our kids across the board, my big concern knowing my kids is getting them connected enough where they're comfortable to just get on and work on the program whenever they have time. You know, sometimes we spend half the night trying to log in to something because it's, you know, people like me, older people trying to get in and what's your password? I don't know, the teacher gave it to me, but I lost it. And so just, I want to make sure that we, sounds like you've got the professional development help to get your teachers trained, to get the kids activated into it, because, you know, like I say, I feel sorry watching people struggle that hadn't even had any prep, and to go walk in and take some of these tests cold turkey, it's just not, it's not the same.
Right.
So it's a great program, and I think if we do it right, it should help.
And that was going to be my input. The key is going to be if it's used appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And with the staff development that goes along with it, they will be taught how to use it, and I believe it will be used the way it should be.
One more comment, Mr. President. From a transparency standpoint, I want to applaud staff in terms of the information that's presented. Information showing very clearly where we stand in comparison to the state and to the region and prior year. It would be tempting, I'm sure, to only display this kind of data when it's good news, but unless we're realistic in our assessment of kind of where we are, our chances of improving on that are limited. So to the extent that there are other expenditures like this where there's relevant state comparison data and region comparison data, I'd encourage staff to continue to do this as part of our effort to be transparent to the community on how we're trying to improve Tyler ISD.
Okay, if that's all, then I will take a motion on item D.
I move that we approve the staff recommendation for item D for the Edmentum contract.
All right, second.
Second.
All right. Any last discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Move on to superintendent staff reports. Page 33.
Start of a new year, and then a lot of work with this board on developing goals for the school district and things that they would like to see the administration and the staff work on. One thing that was brought to my attention was the opportunity to have a report out on a very frequent routine basis of some of the progress or work being made towards some of the agreed upon goals that this board has worked on in workshops and other opportunities. And tonight we have, as we had projected a couple of meetings ago, that we would actually give you an update on student achievement performance, which is our goal number one, and that's to increase academic performance and student success in becoming a high-performing district. And the actual conversation and report is the benchmark data discussion. So we have data department, Max Gregory, along with Dr. Jamie Johnson with curriculum instruction, and then Dr. Christy Hansen, who is Chief Administrative Officer with CNI and her division. So we're going to turn it over to them and let them take you through that. Mr. Gregory.
Good evening. How are y'all? Again, I'm Max Gregory. I'm the coordinator of assessment and accountability for the district, and tonight we've got a benchmark data discussion / presentation for y'all. And so, actually, this first slide, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Johnson and let her kind of fill you in on our assessment plan for the district.
Good evening. As you can see, when I presented to the board back in November, we discussed parts of our the assessment plan. So what you have in front of you is a TISD assessment plan. There are 3 parts to it. We have a universal screener, we have our district-created assessments, and we also have teacher-created assessments. In the universal screener, that is a screener that's given around 3 times a year, and it's focusing on math and reading, and it's a skills-based assessment that will tell us where our students are performing in vocabulary and comprehension, in math computation. So it's taken in the beginning and the end of the year, and there's an option for campuses to take it at the middle of the year. At the district created assessments, we have a 9-week assessment that's given the first 9 week of school. That gives us an opportunity to assess the content up into that point that's been taught. What we've learned this year is it's a great opportunity for us to look at where we are with our district scope and sequence, and if we need to make, if teachers need to make adjustments on where we're at. And so then that assessment is also at a little bit of a lower rigor level than STAR. And so it also, I talked about the time to adjust on that for teachers. On benchmark 1 and 2, what we have given so far this school year has been benchmark 1. And our benchmarks are at the STAR level of questions. We do use released assessments from the state, so we have as close as possible to a type of projection or accurate measure of how our students are going to be assessed by the state. It assesses the content that's been taught up into that point. So, for example, according to our scope and sequence for the district, if there's something that's going to be assessed, we don't assess anything that hasn't been taught up into that point. And in between that, of course, we have our teacher-created assessments. And those are short assessments that are written by the teachers that are focused on the smaller units that's been taught within that time period. It's focusing on the readiness standards, and it allows teachers, it's a type of formative assessment that allows teachers knowledge about where their students are performing, and they can use that as to change their instructional practice in the classroom.
And again, the data that we're talking about tonight is benchmark 1. So as far as the calendar goes, that test was administered December, right before we left for the winter break. So what we ended up doing is we took all the data from the campuses, and what we tried to do is replicate essentially TA's methodology for calculating index 1 and index 4. So we kind of have at least a point to see where we're at and to see, kind of like Dr. Johnson was talking about, what adjustments we need to make. So the first calculation that we perform is index 1. And if you'll remember, I did a real brief 5-minute presentation on accountability. Index 1 is essentially looking at the passing standard. So what I've got up on the board and what you have in your handouts is just a brief overview of how that's calculated. So what you look at is not necessarily individual students passing, but the number of tests taken and then the number of tests that met the STAR standard. So we take our benchmark data, we apply the STAR passing standards to that, and we see where our students are. We aggregate that across all subject areas and grade levels. So when you're looking at the reports, you're not going to see grade 3 math. It's just going to be the campus level data. And then for index 1, the state only looks at the all students level. So we do break it out by demographic groups, but as far as analysis by the state, they just look at all students to see if the target is met. For 2015, for index 1, the target was 60. And essentially what that means is 60% of the tests that were taken, 60% of tests had to be passed in order for the campus or the district to meet that target. So this is our elementary index 1 projections. So we've color-coded the first column under all students based on whether or not they met that 2015 standard. And again, this test was given in December, so we still have our spring semester left of instruction prior to the STAR test. So the state evaluates at all students, but we do break it out by demographic group on here. And those groups, although they aren't independently evaluated, all those students are then attributed into that all students category. So the next few slides are graphic representations of the all students and the different demographic groups and how they performed at that index 1 standard. This is our all students group. This is what's going to be evaluated when the state goes through and they try to determine whether or not a district campus has met index 1. This next slide is the African American subgroup for our district based on the benchmark 1 data. One thing I do want to point out, we did leave in demographic groups for all campuses. For those campuses that have a small group of African Americans on their campus, one thing to remember is the smaller your number is, the performance of 1 or 2 students can skew your data one way or the other. Next is this is our Hispanic subgroup for the elementary, index 1 projections. And then we've got our white subgroup for index 1 as well. Next, we also included on these, although the state doesn't go through and they calculate numbers for special ed and ELL, as a part of PBMS, we do evaluate the performance of those students. So we did go ahead and present some graphic representation for those subgroups on here. So on this, you've got special education. And then, again, here are the ELL performance. So what we've done is you've taken all the data, we apply whether or not students met the STAR passing standard. So for elementary, looking at grade 3 through 5, reading, math, writing, and science. Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Gregory, where the targets were not met, what specifically is being done to raise those levels of achievement so that they can either meet or exceed the standard?
I can take a stab at it unless Dr. Johnson wants to go at it.
Shop. He's a data guy.
Well, what we are currently doing is campuses are truly looking at their data. We are looking in CNI about our support and arranging our best way to get on the campuses and work more with the teachers on targeted scheduling. Campuses are looking at flexible grouping of their students. They're looking at that data, and they're targeting the specific standards that students may have not performed well in. We're also focusing on what we are doing well in and try to achieve at a higher level. We're targeting our professional development. We have a district PD day coming up in February, and our professional development given by the district is focused on specific standards. We also have campuses are looking at teacher schedule changes, capitalizing on the fact of teacher strengths and having them working with certain students on just creative scheduling in order to help move those students forward. We also are looking and working on a focused review so that we have targeted resources and a targeted review before the test as a push to help get our students up to that higher level.
Can you comment on how this data would compare to benchmark 1 of last year, and then just in general how predictive it ultimately is for STAR performance?
It's difficult to compare the benchmark 1 from last year to benchmark 1 of this year because we went to a state release test this year. And last year we did teacher-created tests. We pulled curriculum cadres together. The teachers wrote the test. It was a good test. I wouldn't say that it was at the level of STAR. And this year we really wanted it to be a true projection, so we actually used the released items. Okay. So the numbers last year looked better. I'm inclined to say it was a false positive for us. And so this year we know exactly the exact standards that we need to work on based on the rigor of STAR.
So you're saying you use the release test this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Release test items.
Okay. So here you have a starting point, I would say, from the test data you have here. And I'm sure the principals, being the outstanding men and women they are, have identified students and where these students are and what they need to do. So we're looking forward to higher achievement in the second administration. Is that correct?
Right. What we've done is we've met as a group. The secondary and elementary both have met as a group. They've talked about what they're doing. They've compared ideas. They've stolen ideas from each other. They're working as true colleagues. They're observing. I've got principals going to other campuses to see what Rice third grade math is doing, for example. When the scores are high, we're learning from each other. So we've just done that in the last 4 days with middle school, with secondary and elementary. So they're learning from each other. We're on it.
There was no map data presented. There's just been, if I'm correct, a single administration of MAP at the beginning of the year, about to have a second administration. And so we'll see data from that at future meetings. Okay.
On the benchmarks, you said you used items from the release STAR. Yes, did y'all go through the STAR and pull the items that reflected TEKS that had already been taught for the year? That's how you.
Okay. All right, here we go. So the other point that we calculated for this report is index 4. And so this index is looking at students who are going to be ready at that final level 2 standard. This is going to be when STAR is fully implemented in 2021-22, which really seems far away, but I know it's getting closer and closer. So essentially, if a student takes 2 tests, they have to meet this final level 2 standard on both those assessments in order to count for the campus in this particular index. So on this, we're looking at the percent of students that meet that target. For 2015 at the high schools, the state evaluated that the STAR component only, their target was 21. Now in Index 4, the high schools actually have 4 different components they're responsible for, but for this one component of that, they expect them to be at 21. Middle school was at 13 and elementary was at 12. So again, we're going to run through the elementary projections first. So these are the elementary campuses, and all the demographic groups are reported, and then there's a final summary column at the right that indicates what that Index 4 preview is. So none of the groups are actually evaluated independently, they just all contribute to that overall score for the campus. And again, we've got some graphic representations coming up. This is the all students. So when you're looking at this, again, that target is 12 for the elementary campuses. And we've gone again through, here's African American and Hispanic. Now what you'll notice is when we get to Hispanic and white, there are some campuses that don't have any data on there. What we've done is we've gone through, we've looked at group size for this, And if those campuses have such a small population of students for that particular subgroup that they're not evaluated, at the state level, we went ahead and we pulled out their data for this. So it's actually a true representation of what the state would do. So here's our Hispanic subgroup, and then again in white. So these are the campuses that would have that student group evaluated as part of their overall Index 4 score. All right. So then we can move into middle school. And so what we've done for middle school is we've done the same thing that we did for the elementary. First, we've gone through and we've done our Index 1 calculations, which are looking at the percent of tests that are passing the exam. Again, we've got the all students line is what's evaluated for Index 1. And then here are the graphic representations for those numbers. So you can see all students, and again, the target for this is 60. Here's the African American subgroup, Hispanic, and white. And we also, for Index 1, again, as part of PBMAS, we went through and we did calculate our special education numbers and ELL. On the special ed, one thing to note on this is we looked at the district benchmark. At the state, they have multiple assessments for students who are served by special ed, so it's not just STAR. It could be STAR A or STAR Alt 2. For this purpose, we only have our district benchmark data. So
what's the standard we're trying to achieve on this right here? What level?
On this, special education as a group isn't evaluated independently, but for Index 1, at the all students level, they want to see 60%. So all these just contribute to that all students.
And it's also relevant to PBMAS.
You're right.
Reporting that you guys love hearing about.
Yeah. Okay. And here's the ELL population. So now we've gone through, we've done Index 1. Again, now we switched to Index 4 for the middle schools, and this is where we're looking at students that, the percent of students that meet that final level 2 standard criteria for STAR. So again, you'll notice we have all students, African American, Hispanic, and white, and then that final Index 4 preview column, which is all those combined into one number for that campus. And the target for this is 13. So we've got the table format, and again, we've got those graphic representations. So here you see all students, and the target is 13, African American, Hispanic, and then white. And so again, you'll notice here there are 2 campuses that aren't listed because that particular subgroup at the campus would not contribute to that score in the state accountability methodology. Questions? All right. We'll keep rolling. So last we have high school. We're back at Index 1 again. This is talking about the percent of tests that have met that standard, and the goal is 60. So we've got the all students line, and then the table has it broken out, African American, Hispanic, and white. And again, we've got our graphic representations so you can look at that in comparison. So here's the all students, African American, Hispanic, and white. And then again, for these, because of PBMS, we did calculate the special ed and the ELL numbers for Index 1. So here's special education, and here's ELL. Lastly, we do have, these are our Index 4 projections. And I did put an asterisk on that Index 4 preview, as the STAR component's only 25% of that final index score. So at this point, if a campus is evaluated solely, a high school, solely on that STAR component of Index 4, the target that the state established is 21. And so here again, just like previously, our graphic representations for those sub-pops. So here's our all students line, African American, Hispanic, and white. So at the high school, all those demographic groups do have enough students to meet minimum size criteria, so they all are included in that Index 4 preview score. And that's the end of the graphic.
If you were to give us 3 statements, having looked at this data, and we are, of course, looking at it as well, what would you say about now and future?
I would think at this point, my feelings are looking now and in the future, we have a solid plan. We, campuses and us are working together on a solid plan. They are more focused on the data, focused on where our students are performing, identifying individual student needs and specific targeted areas of instruction. PLC conversations with teachers are focused on student needs, and we are seeing changes in instructional practice. I think we are more aware of what changes need to be made in our instruction and how we need to focus on our students. We are, like Dr. Hansen said, we're collaborating more. We are open to evaluating whatever resources that we need and doing all that we need to do to help our students perform.
I'll add something. You asked for 3 things. I'll add one. One is I think they were up front and telling you that this year compared to last year on the assessment that was made, this one is a much more aligned, rigorous opportunity, whereas if you'd been given this data this time last year, it might have given us a little bit more of a false positive, whereas I think this is pretty upfront and forthcoming about where we're at and the work that needs to occur between now and when we start taking these exams. I've always been under the you know, obviously you need to inspire students and give them opportunities to be successful, but you also need to challenge them and you know, obviously provide them a little bit more of a rigorous setting and challenge as opposed to that average setting so that they can achieve some of those things. I think that it's not fun to look at that right now, but again, we're not trying to hide anything from you. And our principals are here tonight, and they're here. We've got a good team that's working on these type of things. We're close in a lot of those areas. You know, if you see if one of those standards was 12 and you see a lot of 10s right there, we've got 3 months to make that up and to really work hard on those things. So I think that's the thing to come out of this meeting tonight is not to just look at the colorization of that chart, because Dr. Hansen can say, she can tell you that when I first got this PowerPoint, and I said, where's all the green? There's too much pink on here, or red, whatever color that is. You start looking at the actual numbers and see how close you are. I think that's something that you can take out of this and saying that we've got enough time to make up one or two of those points. Now, there's a couple of campuses on there that have a long way to go in some of those areas, and we're just got to keep moving the ball down the field and staying second and short as opposed to 3rd and 15. That's some of these campuses that a lot of these principals inherited after we made some of these changes last year had a long way to go, and we're having to make some incremental gains on that. So you're close in some areas, you're quite a bit of ways in some. Just look at that passing standard and see if you think that that it's attainable, and if it's within a few standard deviations of getting there, that gives us hope.
Well, we have to give the new campus level administrators that opportunity. Things didn't happen overnight, nor in 1 year. What I would like to say to the principals who are here tonight, I commend you for your dedication. If anyone want to know what it's like, they just need to go visit, and one day won't do it. But we're in an opportune time, I believe, in the life of our students, where I know that you have high priorities, and I know you aren't going to sit down on your students' principals. What I would like to know is, do you have the option to schedule your day like you need to and yet cover the required amount of time? For instance, we had an after-school tutorial and parents understood it was not optional. So do the principals have that option where these students are required for extended day and it's not an option? Because we're all in this together. And the principals and teachers cannot do it by themselves. It takes the home and the school working together. Do they have the freedom to restructure their day to meet the needs of the students that they are serving? And if so, what are the limitations?
Well, one of the three things that I would have said is sense of urgency and creativity. So one of the things that happens when we get data like this is we know clearly where we stand. And as we've been talking to principals, and I sat in some PLCs this week, where we are pulling teachers from primary grade levels up to, another grade level to teach reading to a group of kids, because no one is a better reading teacher than a primary teacher.
That's right.
And we're creating schedules that are very creative and grouping kids and, sending kids through the campus like little bees at certain times of the day. It's really a wonderful thing, actually, because the principals have complete autonomy to be able to maximize every single human resource they have on their campus at any given time. And so I think that they've been given that autonomy by us. But maybe somebody wants to speak to that. I'm not sure. Anybody courageous enough?
Well, hearing that you've given them that
Yes,
autonomy, that's good enough for me.
So we are encouraging them to do whatever it takes to get the needs of the kids met, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. Our principals are having some very, very difficult conversations at this time of year.
As an example, we did have one of our secondary schools that, due to some failure rate data that came back, rearranged their entire math department. And that's not always fun, but if we're not being successful, it's a true indication of certainly, the learner's commitment, but at the same time is the instructor actually doing everything they possibly can as well. And so kudos to that courageous principal for doing so mid-year at a pretty large secondary campus here in this school district. That takes a lot of work, and so that is some of the examples that you see in your elementary school. One of our smaller elementary schools has done some rearranging after assessments, trying to match that right teacher. The delicacy and the finesse of that is you do too much of that, there's not enough consistency there to where that teacher develops a relationship with the student develops a relationship with the teacher. So you've got to be very careful of that, principals, and y'all know that. But at the same time, I do commend our folks for not sticking with a bad plan. We had that last year, and I think that's something they're trying to find that right fit, and not be insane about doing things where you just keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
Do you feel like the entire campus, let's say Crawford Elementary, the entire campus has bought into the fact that it's all of us must work together for the success of these students, not just third, fourth, fifth grade teachers? I
think so. I think if you were to go back and roll through some of that data, you'd see some campuses like Griffin that have really, from this time last year, they've gotten the right people in the right spots on the bus, and they've got a true commitment toward performance. As opposed to playing school, and we're in better shape data-wise right now at Griffin than we were last year. Same thing at T.J. Austin. T.J. Austin was that close, and again, I think that they're doing the right thing. They've got a good war plan to attack it, and so those are two examples right there that you say that the faculty has bought into defeating tradition and trying to do things in a different way on behalf of children. Because we know that the data that does come back proves to us whether or not they're becoming better at math and better at reading. And we talked about that at convocation, that sometimes we fight this accountability system and we fight assessment. But after all, it does assess whether or not students are reading, writing, doing math, doing science. And so we're trying to use that to our advantage. And I gave you two examples there, Griffin and Austin, that have flipped the switch. Their behaviors are more high performing than they were last year.
Several meetings ago, we wrapped up the process of hearing all the improvement plans for some of the targeted campuses in the district.
Can you comment on how the use of this data is impacting those plans, and if there are differing levels of support or resources that those schools are now employing as a result of this data?
Right, the campus improvement plans are living documents. So if the plan was a bad game plan or we're not receiving the results that we intended, then we change it. And the campus improvement committees, those CPOCs meet regularly and they look at the data, and they're required to look at that data and change their plan. So they're integrating all of these new strategies into their campus improvement plans. And the PSPs that we employ are part of those changes. The group that I sat in on this week, I mean, the PSPs there encouraging and suggesting and writing up the changes so that those changes go into TEA.
Talking about those plans as well, when a principal or they look at their quarterly update and how things are going and making some of those adjustments, that also works with the C&I department on, they give us a call or we come in and look at that plan and talk with them about what our support's going to be looking a little different. What do you need now? How are we going to change this? And so it's a constant reevaluation of what we're doing to help the students and achieve what we need to. So,
can you comment on broadly the assessment timeline going forward? So we've got the next administration of MAP. We have a second benchmark. We have STAR, and we have, I guess, the third administration of MAP. Can you remind me how those are all sequenced?
Yeah. Right now we're in the middle of our middle of year MAP administration. So that window opened January 4th, and it's going to close February 24th. Within that same time frame, I think it's February, in the middle of February. Like, I know the window closes around the 12th. We start our second round of benchmarks, and what we've done is we've actually structured our benchmarks to mirror STAR. So with our STAR assessments, at the end of March, we'll administer grade 5 and 8 reading and math, and grade 4 and 7 writing, and then the high schools administer English 1 and 2. So we've structured our benchmarks so that we give those in February, so we can give those assessments, we can get the data, we can analyze it prior to that STAR assessment. And then we do the rest of our assessments for STAR, so we're talking like 3 and 4 reading and math, 5th grade science and social studies. Those assessments actually happen in March. So our second benchmark is actually split, so we can give those assessments before that STAR assessment is given, so we'll have some data to start informing instruction. And then at the very end of the year in May, we'll do our end of year MAP administration, and then we'll be able to run some comparison reports. One of the great things about MAP is we can truly monitor growth. We've never had that before with our benchmarks, so we can look at beginning of year to middle, and then we can also look at end of year to see whether or not those students have made growth. One of the nice things about MAP too is it has a projected growth for where those students should be, so we can see whether or not, compared to our norm group for MAP, are we making those same gains with students.
So it seems like almost every month we're going to have some sort of data that helps us see kind of where we are?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, from here on out in the spring, yes. There is going to be some type of assessment going on from now through the end of the year.
There'll be assessment, but certainly the STAR end, of course, it lags. I mean, then there's not a very quick turnaround on that, except for maybe your EOCs that kids need them to graduate. It's high stakes, it's quick, it's urgent, it's in the moment. But I think if we look at our total assessment program, we start talking about MAP, I think Max hit on Mr. Gregory, pretty informal away from the dais, but Mr. Gregory spoke to how we're getting a lot of data, and I think one thing that I'm really looking forward to, certainly I want to get off any type of list, and I want to see our kids performing. I want to see that end of the year MAP data. I want to see if our kids are making growth, because our accountability system does not reward much of that. And I want to see if we're making growth district-wide, so that we can eventually, in year 2 or 3, get to where we need to get to. Now, that progress needs to be pretty quick, and in large chunks for us to be able to catch the state standards. Now, with the new commissioner coming on board, they're going back and recalibrating some of the expected jumps in the number that you have to meet. So like this year it's 60, last year it was 55.
It's been 60 for 2 years.
60 for 2 years, but I'm saying that they had projected it, we're going to make large jumps, and now they're going to give you more plateaus to actually get there.
Yeah.
So
what they've done is, for STAR, they've kind of implemented this, what Dr. Crawford's referring to as the standard progression model. So in the past, what our phase-in period looked like is we were at phase 1, which is low. So we were there for 3 years, then we would have a significant jump to the next level. And now what they're doing is they're doing small incremental steps each year. So it's essentially it boils down to about 1 to 2 questions every year that you have to improve upon in order to maintain that STAR passing standard.
Sounds to me like there's, with all the, benchmark data and everything we do incrementally up to the STAR test, it's like there's a lot of little battles, up until the STAR war that we have. I want posters. Star Week.
Wade's seeing who's still awake. Let me just say on behalf of the board that we always say this, but administration, principals, if there is anything that the board can do or that's been off the table for years, and we are not even going to mess with that because it's not going to matter, the board can't do anything about it. I would say in my span, this is probably the best shot we have at really trying some different things. Dr. Crawford's on board with whatever it takes, so please let us know, whether it's resources, money, any ideas, going against certain, anyway, we're here to support you.
Traditions.
Yes, traditions. Tradition kills, right?
Grade configurations.
I mean, anything. It's
you brought it up.
It's time. We will consider anything if it makes a difference.
Does every elementary school have to be a pre-K through 5 elementary school? I'm just saying. Can we go to the primary pre-K through 2 model, consider that to 3 through 5? Some of these really small elementary schools, it's like batting averages. I used to want like 400 at bat so I could get my hits. You give me the smaller amount, I've got to get a lot of hits to get that high average. And so it's something we're going to have to discuss. And it can't happen overnight. And I'm not asking that for tonight, but you brought it up.
Yeah. I'm ready.
And we've got to get over some of that tradition. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say it, dadgummit.
Do we need to talk about this first?
No, I'm just going to say it. And y'all know what I'm talking about. We've got 2 elementary schools that were built within a mile of each other. We've got to talk about some of these things. It's hurting us because of how small they are. It might be great to manage a small campus, but as far as performance goes, economy of scale, it's tough. And that's just, we got married to that. We had to do some things 10 to 15 years ago. People see a lot of people out there shaking their heads. We've got to consider some of those things. It doesn't mean that school goes away. This may not be the same one it was in 1970, which it's totally different now. So there you go. Sorry, you opened that door.
Well,
you said it.
That's what's fun for us, is doing innovative things and being a part of it. So we're open and appreciate everyone, principals coming tonight. It's good to see all you guys, and we appreciate what you're trying to do. We really do. Any other discussion on that item? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Thank you, staff.
May the force be with you.
Might be good to get principals' input on what they think about grade configurations. That's being creative. It's not new. It just may be new to Tyler.
That's right.
All right. We will move on to a discussion item on fencing at Caldwell Elementary.
Yeah, earlier tonight, the board discussed the fencing at Hog. The reason this was actually put into discussion item is it was brought to my attention that a few years ago that we had a potential philanthropic partner at Caldwell Elementary to where the district could have gone in and partnered with this family to actually secure the old Tyler High football field a little better than it is currently. It's pretty wide open. I know that there's been some need there within the school. It's kind of gone back and forth between the principals that have been there, the physical education teachers that have been there. And it was something that I just wanted to put in front of the board to talk about, since we've never had that conversation since I've been superintendent here, about what the possibilities are, what your preferences are, what you see as maybe some opportunities there for us to maybe reach out again with some partners to see if that's something that y'all would like to do.
Let me just ask to start this out. What is the what's the plan? What are we trying to do on that field? And what do we do, and what are we trying to do going forward there?
You know, I think there was some ambiguity there about who actually owned that property, whether or not that was actually district property or it's city property, who maintains it, who doesn't maintain it. But like I said, that was the old Tyler High, that was the old Tyler Texas football field when we only had one high school, and it is our property. You know, I know that there's been some concerns about vagrants in the past that have left some undesirable materials out there in the field. I don't know if a fence actually prevents that from happening. But you also have, you know, some other residences that are within proximity to that field and where the consideration is whether or not an actual fence would make our folks a little bit more secure whenever we take our students out to that property. It's a little different over there. I think the city's done a good job in securing that area better. Even my short time here, I've noticed there's not as much traffic over there as there had been. And it's not the same as a Caldwell, a Hog or something that's on a major thoroughfare. You worry about balls escaping, it's kind of down in a bowl. But again, staff asked that I bring this in front of the board. Didn't really know what y'all's thoughts were, if that was something we were wanting to do. You know, it is unique. It's not really a playing field there. It's not a game field. There's not a track there. So it's just it's actually more of a discussion item to see what the interests are about us going forward in regard to that facility.
And the kids use that daily when the weather's good? Okay, so y'all still walk them across the street, and you have your end of year deal over there still, and okay. And do you feel, you know, is there ever a time when you feel unsafe down there? Okay.
I've been there since we've moved into Caldwell, and so I've seen everything, and I use a little called security every year when we're out there in the springtime. I've got a list of things that have happened out there. We've had a guy that has circled me with the kids, and he ended up having a bag full of knives, and the security had to call the Tyler police at that point. We have, when we're out there, the strangers walk across the field daily. People could pull up at that Mazzio's parking lot. They could grab a kid before a teacher could do anything about it. Our teachers use it as recess too, as well. We have people, we've had guys out there that have been drunk, passed out on our field. I've had a guy an older gentleman that was out there with rubber gloves, had a soccer ball, trying to lure our kids to him. When I called police, he took off. So, I mean, that's just a little bit of things that have happened out there.
That's an open field.
That's about as bad as I think an answer we could have gotten for that question.
She painted a good picture. She did.
And these have been things that have happened recently, or relatively recently?
Within the last couple of years.
You know, that is a pretty unique setting there. That's as urban of a campus as we have, considering the commerce that's around it. So if you compare it to an Owens that's in the country, you know, there's some consideration there. I think that you're going to have some of that some of those things that she described, better chance there than maybe in some other parts of the district.
Well, now go ahead. No, I'm just saying that's a legitimate concern. And any principal who cares would want their students to be safe and secure. So if it helps at all, I'm all for some type of quality fencing to protect your children and the staff.
Obviously, I'm invested over there, fans in kindergarten. I would like the opportunity to brainstorm not only about security fencing, but possibly if there is a partnership, you know, beautification type of thing with that field. I'd like the opportunity to bounce ideas off each other, talk to Tim or whoever about what could be done there if the partnership's still available. I don't know if that partnership has anything to do with the price of oil, but a few years ago it was probably about 90. Now it's at 28 or lower. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I'd love to see some money go into it.
You talking about even equipment, the grounds,
you know,
the equipment, and
just
the security.
set out an idea. You know, what could we do? What money is available? What could we do with that money? You know, but security, especially over there, is a main concern, and it's a big draw. You know, it's a school that people transfer into, and you know, we need to do everything we can to take care of the things that might deter people from transferring in. Even then, safety is a concern. I just would like the opportunity to brainstorm a little bit so we can come up with the best, you know, scenario for that, instead of maybe just in a rush slapping a fence up. You know, I'd like the opportunity to really think about it. You know, not for like a long time, just get the conversation started and see what funding is out there aside from what we have, so we can do the best job we can do.
Mr. Loper presented me the work that had been done in the initial conversations, and I think we, under a couple of administrations ago, got to the point to where we were almost ready to bring something. They were almost ready to bring something to the board, and I think it got hung up on access during the day, which is something that I agree with. Now, maybe those philanthropic individuals could have some access during the day as long as they went through a background check. If they wanted to perhaps walk that facility at that time, that could be part of the agreement. But I think we just pulled the whole thing, said, nope, nobody gets to get on that track while we have kids out there. Now, if somebody gives you an opportunity to enhance that and have some partnership there, I think that they should have some type of accessibility as long as they follow some of our district guidelines. But not everybody during the
Do they have
day.
accessibility on our other playgrounds during the day while children are at school?
No, they don't.
I don't think so.
But it's such an interesting location, you know, and it's been there. Growing up here, I never thought that was TISD's. I always thought it was the city's, just because we played on it, you know, softball games for my sisters, soccer games for me. I mean, it has been used historically as a straight up community field. I mean, there was never any restriction there. I always thought it was the city's. So it is good to know.
How do those lights come on, Mr. Loper? I know that you can drive by there, and at night there's not a soul on that field, and those lights are on. Are they scheduled? Do somebody rent those?
Yes, sir. There are field lights for the football field, which you have to turn those on manually, and they're in that little house, kind of equipment room that's at the far end near the opposite end from
the park,
the campus.
Can you retrofit those lights with Musco or somebody to go with an app or anything like that, like we do at Rose and other places?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then there's also the park lighting that we actually redid a few years back and kind of enhanced all those and put like the Art Deca era globes on them, the acrylic globes, and that's all that, for lack of a better term, mood lighting that you see. And that comes on with a photo cell.
The basketball courts, is that what you're describing?
No.
Who owns the basketball courts? Is that our?
We own the basketball
That's our-
courts
That was
too.
the question you asked
Yeah,
today.
so we own all the way up to the housing on the west end.
Even that back parking lot that
Yeah.
connects the street WC Supply Zone,
Oh,
we own that parking lot too.
We way over
and
there.
then
I didn't know that.
the park that is on the east side of it, closest to the campus, is that something?
We own
we
that
own
entire
and
everything.
operate it and all that, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I would suggest that you research that further and maybe reach out to the individuals that you were talking about and bring us a recommendation at a future date.
I'd add, we certainly have the resources in the district to address security issues for our kids, and we're not reliant on outside parties and their generosity to help with that. So while I support us exploring all relevant avenues, if we need to two-track it to where we address the safety issue quickly, particularly I feel almost like we're on notice in terms of the picture that was painted, and to delay while we explore beautification issues, while there's a known safety threat out there, I'd encourage the staff to move quickly on addressing that issue, figure out a timeline for how we can address a more comprehensive solution. My church has a campus a block away from the school. We have a coffee shop that stays open, and I know the challenges that that neighborhood offers. Mentally ill people, the Salvation Army, that they kind of come and go from there. And so these are real challenges that that school is going to face, not just one or two isolated incidents.
I would just like to say that I agree with everyone that has spoken. But Dr. Crawford, if we can move on this as quickly as possible, because our main concern is the safety for our children. And we can beautify and add other things later, but we need that fence around that property for the safety of the children at Caldwell.
So let me ask this fence, if we did a fence, would it be something that was locked? I mean, because if we're talking about security, and we're talking about like other elementary schools and where kids play, the public can't get in there. They are locked, correct? Like if I went up to Andy Woods and tried to get on the athletic field, there'd be a gate that, so we're talking about having a fence, because I don't want to put up a fence if it has an opening in it, that anybody can walk through. That, to me, that's, I'm putting up a fence, but who am I keeping out? I guess I'm keeping out an automobile, maybe. But I'm not keeping out
Our district is programmed as such that we have some locations that there's been a lot of money invested, or maybe the facility's not as durable for a lot of traffic. I'm thinking about the high school football fields and tracks. I mean, if you allow a child to get on there with a bicycle or a little Hot Wheel, 3-wheel deal, and they peel out or something and pull the brake and they tear up the track, you got to redo the whole track. So I understand that. The board did approve for the 3 tracks at the older middle schools. Our newer tracks at the new schools are open. So I think it's not going to be a one size fits all across the district that you can get into X elementary school all the time. I do think in this situation, because we do know there's been some traditional public use after hours, that we could figure out a way to, with technology, to have it accessible only to school district staff or whoever we approve during the school day, and then after hours we could program those wirelessly to be open for public access. So I think there's some creative ways to meet the needs of our children and our staff, and at the same time continue to have public access at certain facilities. I don't think you can do it at every facility, just depending on the location and what the projected use is and the actual amount of money you put in there. So we can do that, Mr. Washman. We can figure out a way to be creative if we go forward. We will work on this and continue. We'll search the partnership, and at the same time, we'll work on something that we can take care of in a very economical way as well.
Yeah, in the most expedient way.
Yeah. Maybe we can figure it out by next workshop or something. You know? Are we not being
Thank you, Mr.
expedient?
Loper.
Not being expedient now?
All right. District calendar.
Let's talk about something fun.
Yeah, the calendar.
Page 35, you have a calendar. And we talked about this at the last workshop. The statute had actually allowed us in House Bill 2610 to start looking at minutes as opposed to just the traditional day calendar. And Dr. Coburn, I want to publicly thank you for the work you did with the District Planning Committee to actually put a calendar in front of us to take a look at. And certainly we want to make sure that we were taking care of a lot of the needs of a calendar. Certainly the first priority is student learning needs that our school district has. The second is certainly we want to make sure that we took care of the taxpayers' dollars, the fiscal responsibility that we have as well. And then from there, look at the adult needs. The community certainly is a priority, and then certainly our staff. And sometimes we forget, I think, in public ed that we have some opportunities throughout the calendar that we sometimes take for granted. And I think we've presented the board a calendar here that does take care of our student learning needs first and foremost. When we looked at the minutes calendar, going by the minutes, going by the statute to allow you to do the minutes, the option to do minutes, it was very hard for the superintendent of schools to say that we were going to cut our school year back by 5 days. Y'all saw some data tonight, and there are times during the year to where you have a lot of testing going on. There's not much instruction going on. You lose those days. There's always the days before and after breaks where people are trying to get their sea legs or maybe have their mind on something else. I think if you were to shorten your school year by 5 days, you're shortening your time and your exposure to instruction by 5 days. And I don't think we're in shape to do that right now. So the DPC did a great job of bringing a recommendation there, and we kind of took that recommendation and we went through and tweaked some of it. There were some days that were missing in there as far as making sure we had the right amount of days in there for instruction if we were going to do this. We also were going to take a hit in our fund balance upwards of $2 to $3 million if we were to start as early as we were going to start as far as professional development goes. So you'll notice, starting in August, that we're actually bringing staff back for a couple of short bursts of professional development instead of 5 straight days of it. So you're going to start in the middle of the week before the week before. That's the 10th and 11th. That was one of the initiatives that I asked them to consider, and they came up with. And so they'll come back on that Wednesday and Thursday for professional development, and then they'll have an opportunity at a 5-day, do what you want to do. You need another getaway to Port Aransas because you weren't able to squeeze it in the 2.5 months you're off, and that's the opportunity to go to Port Aransas, I guess. Then you come back on the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and you're able to finish up with professional development, with convocation being on the 19th. You have that weekend off, and then we actually start school on the 24th. We have the 22nd and the 23rd as work days, and you start school in the middle of the week. Now, that was a request that was made by a community member to consider, and I think we were able to make that work. Then you have a 3-day week, and then you come back, then obviously Memorial or Labor Day is sitting right there waiting for you as well. So a lot of hard work and getting into the school year, and then there's certainly those traditional days we have there. October, you have Columbus Day as a professional development day. Why we celebrate Columbus Day, I'm going to make this statement publicly. I don't know, but we do. I know, but I'm just saying we do. And so the banks are closed that day. That will be a student holiday that day. However, we do have professional development. November, you have Thanksgiving. That was one compromise the staff would like me to bring in front of the board, to not go back to the 2-day week there. There are some instructional issues there if you go to 2 days that week, especially after you've gone to a week. So I think we kind of compromise as far as our start date up there at the very first and being able to protect Thanksgiving there. I do want to be very clear with the staff that's in here. I was talking to the principals yesterday that, you know, these days to where staff might take off a Friday to give themselves a 3-day weekend after that break right there to go Christmas shopping is unacceptable. And we need to work hard on making sure that we maximize and utilize the 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas for instruction. You have a week off at Thanksgiving. That's not what your local mechanic gets off. That's not what your local landman gets off, or someone who works at Trinity Mother Francis, or someone who is in commercial real estate, someone who's a pastor. So that is a benefit that we are programming into the calendar to protect those other days. The days that we're at work, we need to be working. We don't need to give them any time off. There is no other benefits. Thanksgiving is an opportunity. Let's make sure that we're protecting and utilizing it so we can keep that. December, Christmas falls on a Sunday, and you know, when it does fall on a Sunday, it does present a predicament because it always matches when New Year's falls. So New Year's Day is on a Sunday, and then that next day is going to be a work day for our staff. Students will come back on the 3rd, have a 4-day week, and then Martin Luther King is sitting there with a couple of weeks out on the 16th. February, we have a professional development day on President's Day. The students are out, but the staff is allowed that opportunity. March spring break is actually the week of the 13th. We have to make sure that we protect when those testing dates are and when we play spring break. Good Friday is Good Friday, and we used to hide a bad weather day in there. And my staff has heard me talk about this all the time, and y'all have told me that, by golly, y'all better be taking Good Friday off. So we're not rolling the die and trying to figure out, well, maybe we want to have a bad weather day. We are taking Good Friday as a holiday, end of story. You have Memorial Day in May. Traditional, it's the same thing there. We want to make sure we honor the fallen, and we're not coming to school that day either. And then you do end your school year on June 2nd. You know, the DPC tried to, and they were successful in using the minutes model for the students to be gone by Memorial Day. And that's probably the biggest, I don't want to say flaw, but that's probably the biggest aha in this schedule is we can't get out before Memorial Day if we're trying to protect going to school 175 days as opposed to 172 or 171. I can't justify as an educator giving up days in Tyler ISD. Maybe in a higher performing district, maybe in a district with different needs and demographics and economic status. Our students need as much exposure to school as they possibly can if we're going to get better. And cutting back those days, this is something I could not bring to the board for recommendation. Bad weather days, because of the one perk of the minutes and the statute, the bad weather days, if you wind up losing bad weather days because we're actually choosing to go to school, you know, 177 days or 175 days, then you actually bank those minutes. And so if you lose a day to bad weather, you don't make that day up. But the staff will because of contractual obligations. So those are programmed in back here on the bad weather days on the back end of June. They'll come in for those 2 days on the 6th and the 7th if we wind up having some days missing. Again, that's a contractual obligation. We have not decided yet on grading periods. It's another one of those deals about being a prisoner of time and tradition. It's always been 6 weeks, even though you can't really fit 6 weeks into 6 weeks sections. I mean, sometimes they're 5 weeks long. They're just grading periods. We're going to ask our teaching staff and our principal staff if something different would make sense for them, like 9-week grading periods as opposed to 6. So you shrink that down into 4 opportunities to put grades in, and instead of 6. There's just some advantages there. There's disadvantages as well, and you got to make sure that you're on top of grade reporting to parents and students during those interim periods. If you go to 9 weeks, so it's something we'll come back and plug in those after this calendar is adopted and we have enough time to talk about assessment and curriculum and instruction. And again, trying to break away from the old agrarian model calendar that we've been prisoners of since the 1880s. That's the calendar. First reading.
All right, board members, any comments on the calendar?
Just one quick question. State testing in October and December. What testing is?
Yeah, that's makeups. That's for the.
So that's not district-wide, that's just a handful?
No, that's like your EOCs that kids have been unsuccessful, and when they need to come back and get those early attempts as often as they possibly can for graduation.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, we'll see this again. If you think of anything between now and next time it's on the agenda, please let our administration know. Future business.
Future business, you have a board workshop February 8th, 2016, regular meeting on February 18th, 2016. It's a Monday and a Thursday. And then May 7th, 2016, school trustee election for single member District 1, 3, and 6. Those are occupied by Gene Washington, Wade Washman, and the Reverend Fritz Hager.
All right, everybody get filed?
All of whom have filed for election.
All right.
You turn your packet in.
Good
All
news.
confirmed.
All right.
Hey, I just want to say one thing about that. It's Board Appreciation Month. I appreciate every single one of you. I love this team of 8. I really do. It's something I think is very, very unique, the chemistry we have, and to Gene and Fritz, any help you need, I fully support both of y'all in whatever, in this election, and I just want you to know that. I want the public to know that, and I'm all for you. So if you draw an opponent, I don't know if you'll draw an opponent, but even if you do, I'm having fun. We need to keep this thing rolling.
Here, here.
Thanks,
Yes, ma'am.
He's already named us the Three Amigos.
All right.
I'm providing the hats for everybody.
Fritz is
so.
bringing the sombreros to the next meeting.
All right. Only thing left is adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, I so moved we adjourn.
All right. No discussion, I assume. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed. Good night, everyone.